this podcast and not discuss the chariot scene.
Mm.
I honestly, going into this, I really thought that the chariot scene was going to be obvious, like, oh, you can tell these are fake, these are miniatures, like, oh, I can see for lack of a better word, I can see the string on the birds. I mean, obviously it's not, but it's like you can tell what it is. And my mouth was wide open for this entire scene.
The land. You may slaughter the people. That is not the end. We will rise again. The day Rome falls, there will be a shout of freedom such as the world has never heard before. I believe in the past of my people and in their future.
You are a conquered people. Kill me and your mother and sister will die today.
Judah! May God grant me vengeance.
Here are the fine, extremely talented gentlemen who were nominated for the best achievement in directing for the past year. William Wyler for Ben Hur. George Stevens for The Diary of Anne Frank. Fred Zinnemann for The Nun Story. Jack Clayton for Room at the Top, and Billy Wilder for Some Like It Hot. May I tear open the yellow envelope, please? Ben Hur, William Wyler.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 4 of the Chicago Cinephiles podcast. I am your co-host, Daniel. Joining me, as always, is Steven and James. Fellas, how we doing today?
Great.
Fantastic.
Great.
Awesome.
Okay, not bad. Sort of bad.
Are we ready for the spring here in Chicago?
Wait for it or not. We don't get spring here in Chicago. We go from winter into the summer.
Get the fake spring, am I right?
And we get
we're
the
on
people in
fake
the
spring
flip-flops.
number 3.
Ugh, the flip-flops that kill me. I can't stand it.
Well, the reason why I bring that up is because this movie we're doing this week is Ben Hur, which does take place in some arid, dry spots. So, not the complete opposite of what we are here. So, episode 4 is going to be on Ben Hur. For those of you who are new, what we do is we basically look at the winners from every year, Best Picture. We have a randomizer. We pick one. We randomize it, spin the wheel. And then we watch it and determine if it deserved to win the Oscar, yes or no. And then we give our humble opinion on it and kind of go from there. So the fate had it that we chose Ben Hur this week. So without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into it. So before we get started, I did want to highlight a comment from our My Fair Lady video. I do appreciate everyone for liking, commenting, and subscribing. That really does help us. This comment comes from Laura Haney 9856. She says, I have great memories of my grandfather singing the songs to me as a kid. The character critique on Henry Higgins' arc is totally valid. I also get tired of the musical numbers have to move the plot forward critique. Sometimes we can have art for art's sake. I do think the movie could have benefited from some of the editing, and the ending could have been more satisfying. Overall, great review, gentlemen. Laura,
nice.
Thank you for that. I'm glad we were able to, sort of bring up some of those memories that you had with your grandfather, because that is, that's kind of what movies are, is to bring those memories and, kind of continue that legacy. So I appreciate you giving me those comments. If you guys want to be in the next episode, please be sure to leave a comment, and we'll pick someone for that. But without further ado, let's hop into Ben Hur. So Ben Hur was the 1960 Oscar winner. So we are in the 60s again, but we're not doing musicals, James. So you're in luck. Although the relationship between Masala and Ben Hur could have been a musical.
Hello.
So the release date on it was November 18th, 1959. The stars in the movie are Charlton Heston, who is Judah Ben Hur, Stephen Boyd, who plays Masala, and then Hugh Griffith, who plays Sheik. Yes. Those were kind of the main ones. Obviously, I know there's other characters, but those were kind of the ones that were on the poster, for lack of a better word. It is a remake of a 1925 silent film that was adapted by Lew Wallace's 1880 novel, Ben Hur, A Tale of the Christ. So budget wise, it was a budget of about 15 million. And that's just the production. We'll get to the marketing and stuff later. 15 million, and that's about 165 million dollars in today's money. So I would say it's a pretty successful movie. Um, so it holds the record for most wins in Oscar history. It's tied with. Does anybody know what the other two are?
Most wins? No, I don't. Well, it'd have to be
Almost the
Titanic.
Wind?
It's 11 is the win. So it's 11. It went 11. It doesn't have the most nominees, but has the most wins.
Titanic?
Steven, you got one right. Titanic's one of them.
Oh,
Almost
wow.
the Wind?
I don't know.
Lord of the Rings, Return of the
Lord-
King.
Of course, I should have.
Oh. Yeah.
So
Return of the King.
it was nominated for all. So it nominated for 11, won all 11,
That's the last
including. What'd you say?
No, that's the Return of the King is the final.
Yeah. I definitely think that was like a way to kind of pay homage to the previous two. So it won Best Actor, Best Director, Best Picture, Best Supporting Actor, Best Original Score, Best Production and Costume Design, Best Visual Effects, just to name a few. AFI did put it as the number 100 movie of all time on their top 100 list in 2008, I believe. And fun fact, that list is kind of what got me interested in Oscar winners. And so that's why I sort of started wanting to do this podcast. So that's kind of why we're here.
The more you know.
Yeah.
You start.
So that's a quick, just, the boring facts about it. But now to a more exciting part, we have Steven, who's going to share. I don't know how he's going to be able to sum this up in a few minutes, a 4-hour movie, but we,
No,
we don't pay him enough. But Steven, go ahead and take it away.
Oh, sure, pay. No, what I was going to say before you mentioned about the other versions of this, I found this online. There have been at least 5 film versions of this. There was a short film in 1907, short silent film. There was a 1925 silent feature. Then the 1959 feature we're watching today, a 2003 animated version, who knew? And then a 2016 feature film, which no one wants to talk about. So it's very interesting. There's been all these, and then there was a play. I'll talk about that one later. But the synopsis: in Jerusalem in the 1st century, Judah Ben Hur is a Jewish prince and a wealthy merchant. When Judah's boyhood friend Messala arrives in Jerusalem to serve as the new commanding officer of the Roman legions, at first they're happy to see each other after such a long time, but their political views are radically different and separate them. During the welcome parade for Messala and Jerusalem's new governor, a roof tile falls off of Judah's house and injures the governor. Although Messala knows this was an accident, he sends Judah to the galleys and throws Judah's mother and sister into prison. All 3 of them have no chance of survival, but Judah swears he will come back and take revenge. That's it.
Excellent. Great summary there, Steven. Seriously.
And hilarity ensues. There you go.
Okay, so we want to add a new segment into their topic is what was going on during this time, mainly in America, just because these are obviously, the Oscars are American, it's American award show. So just little fun facts, kind of put it in perspective of just how old this movie is, which I think will kind of help appreciate the grandeur of the movie. Alaska and Hawaii were declared as the 49th and 50th state in this year. The day the music died happened in February 3rd of 1959. Which is for those you don't know, that was when Buddy Holly, Richie Valens, and the Big Boppers died in a plane crash.
I love you call it the Big Bopper. It's the Big Bopper, not Big Boppers, but that's okay.
And then in October, The Twilight Zone premiered on CBS.
Oh, wow.
And then kind of ongoing during this time, there's not like a particular thing, but just kind of a constant kind of looming thing was obviously the Cold War. And then also the Civil Rights Movement was also still going on. So, just kind of a looming thing. So I just wanted to give you some idea of what was going on in the world or in America during this time, because that may reflect of why this movie won or why another movie may have won. But yeah, so that being said, now let's transition over to kind of the trivia side. And with a movie as long as this is, there's probably quite a bit of trivia. So I'll let James, why don't you tell us a little bit of the trivia that you have?
Well, trivia, like I'm blown away. Like I had no idea what I was walking into for this.
Oh, wow.
like the amount that they had to do it. So like a lot of this was filmed in Italy
Hmm.
by we'll say the studio that was built by the Italian leader in the 1940s. Um where it was like this, it's the largest studio, and I still believe one of the largest studios in the world with a lot of these sets filmed. It was like 160 some acres, and Ben Hur took up 90 to 100 of those
Wow.
acres.
Good Lord.
um Production, more than 1,000 pounds of plaster was used to make like all of the sculptures. And you could go there and see some of the sculptures because they have like a little
Wow.
museum at that
Hmm.
production studio. So like
And half of that was just Chuck Heston's teeth. That's all they used for his teeth was that plaster. That's amazing.
like it was 100,000 costumes, 1,000 suits of armor that were made.
Wow.
Interesting because, speaking of the time, this was Italy. Um, each day they would hire about 3,000 extras to film this
Hmm.
movie.
Wow, wow, wow.
3,000. Like
And they got to
Lord
feed
of the
those people.
Rings, like they did
Uh,
even hire that many. But
Yeah.
because the Italian economy was still recovering from World War II,
Wow.
they had to be careful because 6,000 people would show up each
Oh, wow.
Mm.
day trying to get
Interesting.
hired out of those 3,000. So
Wow.
just a little
Wow.
side fact, like what that economic impact had in that
Yeah.
part of Italy. And some of it was filmed in Turkey too. But
Wow.
You're talking
That's
about so you're talking about the some of the crazy stuff. They said they brought in 40,000 tons of white sand from Mexico just for the chariot race.
just a chair.
The chariot race arena was accurate to an actual Roman arena stadium. It
Wow.
was like 1-to-1 scale, 2,000 feet long, 65 feet wide.
My God.
Um, the one of the interesting facts, I think two of the things are pretty cool is one, this was the first time that the MGM lion was muted.
I was going to say that too. Yes.
And it was just because they didn't feel like it fit the theme of the movie.
Yeah.
Um, and then also, out of reverence for Jesus, the face of Jesus is never shown on screen, nor
Hmm.
is the actor even credited for the film.
Yep.
We
That
know who
crazy.
it is, obviously, but like it wasn't credited. And
I'm
then
hearing that.
also, it took about 5 weeks total to shoot the chariot scene, and Heston and
Wow.
Boyd did most of those stunts themselves.
Wow. 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 Wow.
And one of the fun trivia was as this is one of the first movies that went nuts with merchandise.
Oh, yes. I was going to say this too.
Basically,
I can't wait. Yes. Say it
basically
all.
over $20 million worth of merchandise, including books, toys, candy, perfume, jewelry, chariot-shaped tricycles, and get this, Ben Hur and Ben
Ben
His
his my
bathroom
favorite.
towels.
It's my favorite. My absolute. I could not stop laughing.
It's
Ben
like
Hur
his and
Ben
hers.
his.
what
Oh,
that
I
perfume
love it
smelled
so
like.
hard. I can't.
I don't. I don't even know. It's so
I would
probably.
kill to have a set of Ben Hur and Ben his. I love it. That's so
And
hilarious.
then this is a little long-winded, so I'm gonna like apologize, but I want to read this off. So there's a speculation that um Masala and Ben Hur were actually lovers, and so
Yeah. Hmm.
um Gore, I think it's Gore Vidal, is that how you
Gore
say it?
Vidal. Yes,
Stephen, do
Gore
you want to
Vidal.
say because this is one of your things, I know you
Because
appreciate it.
Gore is not credited on the film, but he wrote a draft of it, and he found the relationship between Masala and Ben Hur, as did the director and the producer, very boring. Just these guys hate each other. We're gonna do that for 3 hours. It's like that's what we have to do. So he put in this sort of subtext that Masala and Ben Hur had been sort of boyhood lovers. They'd had some kind of a tryst or whatever. But 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 I think the producer said the subtitle is a story of the Christ. How are we gonna? We can't do this, you know. And he said, but it's better than what we have. So tell Stephen Boyd, but for God's sake, don't tell Heston. So you watch these early scenes with Stephen Boyd and Charlton Heston, and Charlton's, right there.
Hmm.
Stephen Boyd is acting rings around him. He's giving these looks and these things, and it kills me. And it does sort of fire up the rest of this sort of like fight between the two of them. To me, anyway, it did. But especially for those initial scenes, Stephen Boyd is he's got so much subtext. Look in his eyes. and speaking of his eyes, trivia I found that was Stephen Boyd had blue eyes, as did Heston. So they made Stephen Boyd wear brown contacts throughout the whole movie. Yeah, so there you go. But
I don't think I even knew contacts were around in the 50s.
like yeah, they just put a lot of glass in your eye and said go for it. But but my favorite Gore, when Gore's talking about this, and one of the videos I found, he says they're talking about how they built the set and everything. He goes, "Oh, and they also built Charlton Heston out of a solid piece of balsa wood." It just kills me. I love it so much. So yeah, there's a lot going on in that scene. If you watch it again, you're like, "Whoa!"
And then
This is a lot.
later in life, Heston obviously disputed this in his memoir, and Vidal's response was, "He would, wouldn't he?" I talk about, of course, he's going to reject it. I thought that was hilarious. So to this day, people still debate on if he actually, So you guys can let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments below what your thoughts are on that. Yeah. So okay, perfect. Well, then I had going. Go ahead, Stephen.
I was going to say one more thing. William Wyler was Jewish. The director, William Wyler, was Jewish, and was kept on saying that he took it because he was going to be paid $1 million, which is the most any director had been paid up to that time. And he was want to say in his life, it took a Jew to make a really good movie about Christ. That was funny. His quote about this movie.
Is he the one that died of the heart attack and didn't like because his wife came on stage and won the award, or was that the producer?
I don't believe so. No, I don't believe so.
Because in the award ceremony, the director, whatever for best picture, he was already dead, and so his wife went on stage to get it for him. So since I've already seen the movie, I'm not going to answer this question, but for the two of you gentlemen that hadn't seen it, what were your initial thoughts going in? And did you have any idea what to expect? Like even like pop culture references, like had you known anything? Just kind of, sort of go from there.
For me, all I'd seen is I'd watched this movie, this brilliant movie. If you've not seen it, the Celluloid Closet, about gay people, gay characters, and gay moments in film that were sort of shut down. And Gore Vidal talks about this movie in there. So I'd seen some of the early scenes with Masala and with Ben Hur, but I really didn't know much more beyond that. And I was a little daunted by the running time, to be honest. I'd say that. What about you, James?
I had no frame of reference, although when I was told that it's cleverly culturally referenced, yes. I was basically trying to spot the reference, and I have so many now that I think off the top of my head. But I had no expectations for this film. I was like, I'm gonna go in it, and like some of the scenes, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe they did this in the 50s. Like,
yeah,
the sets were just crazy. Like, people talk about Wicked and them doing all these crazy big sets, but like, that's actually great. Good for them.
Yeah. This isn't crazy.
Like
just the chariot race alone. Good Lord.
Yeah, the chariot race alone, the giant sea battle that they built a giant pool for, like, and like the sets for when they were meeting Caesar, like it, just like from someone who likes film and seeing what they built, I thought it was great use of film production.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's so impressive. I feel like if any movie deserved to win best, costume design and production, it kind of has to be this movie because it's like, what else are you going to put in front of that?
Just the amount of work alone, just the amount of work is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I won't give because obviously I've seen it before. So I don't really remember what my thoughts were first time, but. What do we think about the casting? This is kind of a hot topic where a lot of people think that Charlton Heston was terrible in this role, and then there's other half of the internet that will fight you tooth and nail and tell you that he's amazing.
I found one moment when he was, I think it was, I can't remember when the moment was. There's some moment near the very end where he's acting himself to death. I mean, he's just really great. He's such a stoic actor. It's very hard to find your way into him, into deep, deep emotions for me. because he has this sort of way of doing everything. And almost all of his characters come off in the same way. I think Daniel and I were talking about this. You can put him into Soylent Green. You could put him into Planet of the Apes. And it's kind of the same character. So there's a lot of very, I'm this guy.
It's like
I'm
kind of the
very
manly guy,
yeah.
right?
But when there's a scene at the very end, I can't remember what it was, where his face is just wrenched with emotion. I said, okay, there's this in him. There's something underneath all of that surface of manliness that comes across, I guess, for a lot of people, But he's very stoic in a lot of these scenes.
James, what do you think?
The actors, I think they were well casted. I don't really know who could probably have played it better. Like I could play devil's advocate, but I don't see it. Like
Stephen Boyd.
Those people, they were quite stacks.
Yeah. I love just the casting of Stephen Boyd alone. He's great. He's amazing in this movie. He's really got a lot to go through and stunning. Just stunning.
I really thought that. So when I found out that this movie had won Best Supporting Actor, I assumed it was Stephen Boyd.
Me too. He won the Golden Globe, but he didn't win the Oscar.
Because the scene that they have when they basically embrace, I legit believe they were best friends.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And like
his eyes light up.
Say what you want to say about Charlton Heston, but I thought he did that scene really well. Now there is some scenes where I'm like, okay, like you're trying to be, your typical, but he had also been in 10 Commandments, so he already knew kind of what this role portrayed. Kind of the same, vibe. Like I don't think you want someone like, Jimmy Stewart in there. Like, can you imagine? So it's like I love Jimmy Stewart, but I think he fits in this part, in my opinion.
Masala, where are you?
Mr. Potter.
Masala, what are you doing over there?
What you got, James?
Like some of the acting, like kind of stoic and manly man. Like if you look at historical perspective, like that was Rome. Stoicism was a big part of Roman culture.
Yeah.
So I kind of like I see that as a plus, not as a detractor, because it's displaying Rome as more historically accurate, which is rare for a movie from the 50s. That I don't know if that was intentional or not, but
and if you think about
Rome was like that.
He's lost his family, so why? Like, what is he to be? What is there to be chipper about? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like,
his best friend took his family away.
Keanu Reeves. Oh,
yeah, he's John Wick basically, without just less bodies. Now I
see Charlton Heston and Dude, Where's My Car or something like that. I'm like, no, thank you, or whatever.
Right. So yeah, please let us know in the comments, because I know that's a touchy subject. I've seen both sides. I've seen arguments for both sides that he was terrible. Then I've also seen arguments that he was great, and I can see both sides because both sides do bring up a good point. So I wanted to kind of switch over to something that maybe a little bit controversial because it has to do with religion, obviously. But what do we think about how they were able to intertwine the Jesus story, into this overall theme? I guess I'll start. Me as a Christian, I really enjoyed how they did it because it was a fresh perspective on a story that I know very well. Just the birth of Christ and kind of the fall. Well, more so later, because it starts the birth of him, and then you randomly just run into him. But again, it just never shows his face, which I really do appreciate, honestly. But I just think it's really cool how they kind of intertwine that, because you're like, oh, I know the backstory about what's happening in the background at the Sermon on the Mount, but obviously this is not a biblical story. But it's like now we're seeing it from Judah's perspective, or from Esther's perspective, and not from obviously Jesus or people on the mountain. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that was a neat little touch. That was just my opinion. What do you guys think?
I'll be honest. When I first jumping into the movie, I knew nothing about it. And that subtitle was "A Tale of the Christ." Is that what the subtitle is?
Yeah, it's like
I'm watching the movie, and I'm saying, okay, well, this is the Jesus story. Okay, we got the three wise men. I'm like, is this the Jesus story? I really was confused. I was like, who is the character here? So for the first 15 minutes, I was like, what is going on? Is this Jesus? Is this another? Because then he goes in and there's this thing with a carpenter, and you're like, what is going on? It really confused me. The subtitle messed me up a little bit. because I'm like, okay, what story are we telling? It took me a while to go, oh, this is someone whose life parallels
Mm-hmm.
the story of Christ. It really confused me for a while. What about you, James?
I feel like a Christian background as well, but I feel like the Jesus part, the Jesus story was tacked on.
Tacked on.
Like I
Okay.
feel if you take that part away, like I understand what's going on, and like you did some stuff in the script a little bit differently,
Hmm.
you probably would have had a tighter storyline because, like, I don't know, it just the story was I felt way too long. There was it could have been edited down better. Like don't get me wrong, the epic scenes were great, and don't get rid of the epic scenes, but it seemed like a crutch that they used to get out of lazy writing.
And I think you're probably right. There's a sense of, and of course that's not the movie. That's the book. I mean, that's where this whole thing came from. Is the book. So there's an idea that's probably why the book was so popular, wouldn't you say? I mean, it's because it sort of ties in the Christ story with this other story from that time, and that's what resonates with people.
Mm.
I'm sure that's what it is. But and and it is great to see you know this trial of this man who believes and has his beliefs sort of shaken to almost to the point of breaking, and then believes again at the very end of the movie. It's very comforting to see in me. I was laughing, James, because you said I'm a Christian also. It's like, and I'm a heathen, is what Stephen should have said. So Stephen's a heathen. But
I figured they should either went more into the Jesus angle, like I don't want to say like an angle, but like the
Yeah,
movie
what you mean.
angle, or you know,
I'd more of it
get
in.
rid
I'd
of
more.
it. Yeah, more wove it in because I feel like they just used it to get through lazy writing.
it's
So
a,
That's
it's
that's
Deus ex machina, basically. It's
here,
very very Deus ex machina.
here's my. I'm gonna kind of skip over because this ties into one of the questions. I actually think it's very important that we have this scene because it
Which scene?
show the scene like just Jesus being in it. Because one of the questions I want to ask you guys is this a revenge story or is this a forgiveness story? Because hear me out before we make a decision. So the movie starts as all about revenge. It's all about revenge. It's all it is. About him finding his family, obviously, but ultimately revenge for his family.
Mhm.
Well, when Marsala dies, spoiler, he's it's it's Charleston Heston or Ben Hur has that emptiness. And that's where he sees Jesus on the cross and realizes that forgiveness is so much more fulfilling and rewarding than revenge. And I think it's a great way that they're able to tie in that his family were lepers, which for those that don't know, I mean, they portrayed it very well. I mean, they were the outcast of
Mhm.
society. They were,
Mhm.
you know, whatever you can think of in today's society, 10 times worse. I mean, they were truly the bottom of the barrel. And I really love that it shows how the first part of the movie is all about revenge, but then it switches over, in my opinion, to forgiveness, and that would only happen if you had a godlike figure come into Judah's life or Ben Hur's life because of the traumatic that he has. And so for me, that's how I view it. So I think it's very important that it's in there because it shows the two sides of what most people struggle with in today's society is revenge versus forgiveness.
Well, I would say there's a little bit of a leap for your logic there because Masala does die, and then there's this long gap, and he actually turns his back on the servant of the mount. He doesn't want to hear it. He goes, "I don't want to hear about this."
Right, because
And it takes a
he's fighting with his internal. I mean, it doesn't happen overnight. You don't have your Damascus Road moment overnight for some people. It
well,
takes
I did,
years.
so I see what you're saying. It's just I would have liked to have seen more of that. I don't know. I didn't get
I
all
do
of
wish
that.
he would have carried the cross, but I feel like that would have been too far
Oh, there's no way they would let him do
because
that. No way.
that was too far.
No way.
But
Just the
I
water
just
alone was not.
again, that's just my. I mean, obviously this is an opinion podcast. That's what it's about. So I'm not trying to prove anybody right or wrong. That's just my take on it.
Hmm. I see what you're saying. That may be what the intention of the author was, the author of the book. To put those two
Because I
stories
just think
together.
there's overarching themes of revenge and then forgiveness.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Obviously,
But
we
I'll
look at it
say,
differently.
I mean, if you're looking
James is
for
getting ready.
revenge, if you're looking for revenge, and you see Masala after he's been trampled by horses for less than over a minute, and then that bloodied carcass sitting there on the
It looks
on the
so
floor,
real.
freaked me out. Because a lot of movies, you're okay, yeah, there's some red paint. Okay, we
Right.
got some blood. Okay, this was like, whoa. This was really harsh to look at. And especially under the glaring red light of, the sunlight of the chariot race. I was like, whoa, that's a lot. Because that's what would have happened. I mean, yeah. He's,
All
and
right.
he's under those horses forever. You're like, good Lord, what's happening?
James, I want to circle back on you just so we can wrap this point up because you brought it up. So I just kind of want to get if you had an opinion. If not, we can move on. But I just want to see what your thoughts were.
I get your point. I don't know, maybe it's just a personal thing where I feel like in any story that if you use, I'm not saying magic, but like if you use magic to fix things,
Oh, I
like
see.
it just seems like they used it you know to as a crutch to fix things when it could have been probably a different, more interesting way of writing for it.
Well, that's
I just don't know how they would have fixed it. That's the problem, though, because it's leprosy. There was no cure for it. They would have died. So it's like there's
Yeah,
not
I
really,
get that. So now I'm starting to see your angle because you're doing you did bring up the leprosy part because
So I think it's just
Simpsons reference,
and I think it's just a biblical thing. Where we weren't there during that time period, so we don't know too. What was the reference?
In and of itself, not being able to go ahead.
What's the Simpsons reference?
So Lisa tricks Bart and Homer that they have leprosy to try to get them to clean the house. So Ned sends them to a leper colony to get clean.
Oh gosh.
And in Hawaii, so
it's hilarious.
Yeah.
I can pretend to have it to go to Hawaii.
There you go. Exactly. That's a bad place.
That's basically the joke. Like, we just have to endure 2 hours of blinding pain, and we get an all-expense trip to Hawaii.
But what I would say about your point about leprosy is that, to me, I said this before. It's Greek theater. It's the crutch that everyone thought about the playwrights in Greek theater. We're going to put these characters through all these horrible things. And at the very end, it's Deus ex machina. It's the God coming down from the heavens and fixing everything. That's exactly what the end of this was. It's a big, I hate to use the word trope, but that's what the people call it now, trope. It's just taking care of all the problems. We have all these problems, and the writer can't think of a way out of them. Well, God will come down and take care of it. And that is
a good point.
It is Deus ex machina.
But I do even made it better point than I did.
No, but I do I do appreciate that, obviously. But I also, like you said, we don't know what the writer was thinking in the 1800s when he wrote it. So it's like I don't know. I can see both
apparently
sides.
He wrote. I watched some video where he was a Christian, but he wasn't a very faithful or very deep Christian, and he met some guy who was an agnostic, a very famous agnostic, on a train while he was writing this.
Wow!
And that person's views rather offended him, and he decided to go further into the religion of this story
to try to prove it, basically.
Exactly. That's what he pushed.
That's usually what happens. You get just personal experience. You have a debate with someone and they beat you, basically, and you're like, well, I don't know why I believe this. Let me go back and find out. So but yeah, let us know in the comments. Let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. Is this more of a story of revenge or forgiveness? Because I would love to hear everybody's opinion on it. But we can't do this podcast and not talk about the chariot scene. Okay. James. So let's move on now to the chariot because we can't do this podcast and not discuss the chariot scene. I honestly, going into this, I really thought that the chariot scene was going to be obvious, like, oh, you can tell these are fake, these are miniatures, like, oh, I can see for lack of a better word, I can see the string on the birds. I mean, obviously it's not, but it's like you can tell what it is. And my mouth was wide open for this entire scene. What were y'all's thoughts on it?
I was so sad that I did not have it on my big TV
Mm.
in the living room, and instead I watched it in the bedroom on a smaller TV. I was so sad that I did not watch it out on the big TV. It was such
I would
an
love
epic
to see it
scene.
like a huge Dolby theater. That'd be so
I
fantastic.
IMAX screen, just the naval battle and the chariot race. I will
seriously.
pay $10 to go see that.
I'd pay $10 if we could just go to the naval scene and the chariot scene, and that's all, and then leave. Because I would want to sit through 3.5 hours just for those two scenes. It'd drive me crazy.
But like the chariot scene, it's based off of the what do they call those? What are the Circus Maximus? But it was outside of Turkey is what this was based on, and they kind of modeled it off of that.
Wow.
And
wow.
Like it's beautiful. You can actually go visit the place that the model was built, not the model, I guess set was built on. And
that's so
Turkey,
cool.
Great.
That's neat.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list of places to go to now. But no, it's like the epicness of doing it and then it being referenced so heavily. Like I feel like this is one of the scenes in movie history that it represents, because like I can take it off the top of my head.
Absolutely.
Like Phantom Menace clearly has a lot of tie into this chariot race.
Yes.
Going back to The Simpsons when Bart did the soapbox derby. If you're a fan of Nickelodeon, Doug also referenced this. Like
interesting.
The amount, because they did the same thing where they had the little thing and it would just go into like the wheel and like mess it up. Like
even Grease has that. Technically, the movie Grease, he has it on his.
Oh gosh!
In the scene when they're in the river, like when they're in
I think Cha-Cha Di Gregorio should start every chariot race. That's what I'm saying. Up there and throw it down. Give me Cha-Cha Di Gregorio.
I didn't see anything on this, but do you guys think this is very niche? But this scene just fascinates me. Do you guys think that whenever they did the scene and the horses could never line up, was that intentional, or they just couldn't get the horses lined? Like they kept like kind of going forward.
I think it was. There was
that might have been.
What do you think?
I think it's just true to what it was. Like they're wild. Yeah. There's 4 wild horses, and then you got how many racers? Like 12. Like
and the crowd noise. Like there's gonna be a little bit.
Yeah, it's gonna spook a horse. Like they're not going to.
And I'm glad you said that, because it reminded me of something I sent a text to Daniel. I was watching this and I was like, why does Masala get to have a chariot made by Q Branch that has the things coming out like 007 where it can like mess up somebody else's wheels and no one else gets to? I was like, how is that?
Because he's a Roman governor.
He's a Roman, yeah. But I was like, this is such it just made me so it really sort of it made me crazy watching that. I was like, so this guy gets to cheat and everyone else gets to fall and die, and he's going to win. It just made
that's how that's how we clearly know he's the bad guy. He's
and then
my favorite part
of that is cheaters never win.
Cheaters
obviously.
Well, obviously, my life is not showing you that, but no, when he's whipping even when he was whipping the horses, I'm watching it going, stop whipping the horse. It just made me angry. Stop whipping your horses. I was just like screaming at the screen, and then he starts whipping Judah, and that and then because Judah grabs the whip and he takes his eye off the ball, Masala messes up, and it's just like it was a nice touch to have him be such a,
and he gets trampled. My man
trampled because he takes his eye off the ball. Basically.
My man gets trampled. I love it. And I really appreciate that they did like all the laps. They showed it like. It really heightened the suspense.
What were those fish? What were the fish they took out?
I don't. Because you was. Go ahead, James. You know that.
So if you're going off historical trend, it was off of the port. So I'm guessing it has to do like it was like the Turkish
Oh,
amphitheater was off of the coast. So normally they probably would have had fish because that would have been a big part of their
Hmm.
every time it
livelihood.
went down, it was like, one fish down, three fish down.
Well,
That,
it's whimsical to keep track of the
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, of
races.
That's
course.
also where Dr. Seuss got one fish, two fish. No, I'm just playing.
Three fish.
That would have been amazing.
One fish, Ben Hur fish, you know. Um, and then a fun fact. So this kind of leads to my next topic was besides this scene, what was y'all's favorite scene? I did want to share this because I forgot to mention this in the trivia. So when Masala and Sheik are doing their 4-to-1 odds on 1,000 talents,
Mhm,
a
mhm.
thousand talents in today's money is 82 million in silver and 8 billion in gold. So that's
Awesome.
so that's why they were freaking out whenever and now
Yeah.
this is in 2022 dollars when this was done, like the article was released.
So that'd be like
Um
$5, right? $5.
so but yeah, so that's interesting. Anyway, that's enough of that. What was y'all's favorite scene in the movie besides the chariot scene?
Oh, the boat fight. Like that was the best, the naval battle. That was like the other epic scene that was amazing to see. Like
Mm.
you built a pool to built life-size ships. Like, come on. It was amazing.
Yeah,
Well,
it was.
in the 1925 silent version, they filmed that scene on the ocean. They went out on the ocean to film that scene. Yeah, and one of the I think it was Ben Hur's boat caught fire very early in the filming, and all the extras were diving into the ocean because they had to because they were about to die.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh.
yeah,
That's
crazy. They don't
crazy.
know how many people, if anyone died, but like they were injured. They had to shut down filming. Yeah, it's
I hope they weren't
1925.
really chained to the boat then.
Oh,
That was just
Right?
insane.
Yeah, that's God.
can you
Like,
imagine? Get rid of this,
What
but
about
yeah,
you, Steven? What's your favorite scene?
I'm first of all, I have to say this. I'm not like the two of you. I wasn't overly impressed. I think the chariot race was great. I didn't get thrilled by it. I was more invested in the characters and what they were doing than the actual scene itself. It didn't overwhelm me. It was okay, right. And same was about with the seat the battle. I did was okay. You know, I was I was not so invested into this film as I guess the two of you were. It just made me as I told Daniel that they're out watching this, I would I was I'll just say this. It reminded me of the first Star Trek movie when they build this new Star Trek vessel. They build a new Enterprise, and when they're going to get on the ship, they take a ride around the ship. And for 20 minutes, you're looking at the ship and you're going, "We get it. It's good. It's nice. It's pretty." And then when they go into V'ger, it's another hour and a half of looking at stuff inside of V'ger. You're like, who cares about this? And that was my overarching feeling throughout this film: is that so many scenes went on for so long. It drives me crazy. There were setups. There were like introduction scenes. Like there were establishing shots that would just sort of stay establishing, and then they flip to another establishing shot. Okay, and then we start to see it. It was driving me nuts throughout this whole movie. And I know that's epic, and I understand that it was a reaction to television, a reaction to the studios being broken up. That's why this movie was made. This movie saved MGM, as did the 1925 version, because the studio was had problems then, and this movie saved it, and so did this movie save MGM. But there's just something about how long it took and these scenes. I think because I've watched a lot about William Wyler and his directing style, is that he didn't know how to tell actors what was wrong with their scene. So he would do take after take after take after take after take until he thought it was right. And when actors would go, what are we missing here? What's going on? Give me something. I need what's the adjustment? I don't know. I'll know when I see it. And so there's so many scenes I feel like
Mm.
that go on, and you're like, and there'll be something said, and then has Simba look, and then he'll take a breath. Good Lord, just pick up the pace. That to me was what was. So I can't say that I have a favorite scene. Honestly, can't. I don't know why if it's going to offend anybody,
The end
but
scene.
the
James, what were you gonna
but
say? Like you were gonna
what
come
are you going
in.
to say, James?
I will agree with Steven. I thought the story was too drawn out. It could have done very well with editing.
Oh yeah,
Um, like the scenes were just some of the scenes went on way too long. The dialogue could have been better.
Clipped.
But I love the movie not for the story, but for
Mhm.
what it accomplished
Yeah.
cinematic. Like
Same.
story, meh. But like what it was able to accomplish, like as to make a movie, so like all movies, like setting the bar for what a movie theater could do in a production. I think that's what I like about the movie so much.
Well, and I
Yeah.
think that's what's great about this podcast is that we are different. So
Hmm.
the what Steven doesn't, what doesn't speak to him speaks to me and James. For me, mine has to be I really enjoyed the scene when the sheik is there with the horses in the tent, and he makes the joke about saying goodnight to his wives, and you're like, is he
So
talking
funny.
about the horses or he's talking about his wives? I just thought that he played a really obviously he won for a reason, but I really
Yeah.
did like that scene. If
Yeah.
we're just kind of being like more of a funny, like silly scene, I really
Well,
enjoyed that scene.
well, isn't that the scene where he said, I don't know, like he had 5 or 6 wives. And he said,
Yes. Yes.
and he did like I was like, you only want one. How uncivilized! Like,
Yeah.
You know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of this was it History of the World Part One with Mel Brooks, and he goes, "Have you heard about this new sect of Christians? They have only one God. That's how poor they are."
That's funny.
Oh, come on!
That's good.
And I will say, if you're talking about spectacle of this, we're watching about. I watched a video about a lot of the different incarnations of the story, and there was a theater production that was done by the guy who wrote the book. And so in the play version of this, to do the chariot race, they put a treadmill on stage, an actual treadmill. They put a little thing going back that was like showing the different scenes that would wheel around or something, and they put live horses on stage doing the chariot race. At one point, 5 horses on stage
On the
in chariot
treadmill.
race. On a treadmill on a stage. Take that, Mary Zimmerman. I mean, good Lord. It just stunned me. That to me would be a spectacle because God only knows what's going to happen on that
But
movie.
it kind of
So,
brings the question up though, because like you probably haven't seen it, Steven, but there's like vans that ride around where that have treadmills for your dogs, and they just like you just chain the dog, and they just run, they just sprint, and so I kind of wonder if it's the same concept to where it's
and
like,
they have a treadmill.
yeah, like the dog just will jump on it, and like they just because but it's like it's not like self moving, like they have to like when they run it goes, and when they stop it stops. So I wonder if it was a similar situation with that because like horses love to run, obviously. So I
Yep.
wonder if it was that same idea of just like we're gonna let them run, naturally or what. I'm sure there was obviously some stuff behind it, but
Hmm.
that's pretty interesting. That's pretty cool.
Crazy.
But now let's move on to the next topic, which is probably going to be a little longer because as James has brought up several times, this movie has a ton of cultural impact and cultural references. So,
Hmm.
James, why don't you start us off? What's your thoughts, cultural impact wise on this movie? What did it
oh,
have?
I think it had a colossal, like, even if you've
Hmm.
never seen the movie,
You've
like
seen, yeah.
I'm like, oh, like The Simpsons, like off the top of my head, I know I'm not as familiar with the more recent season of The Simpsons, but like the ones that I could remember are like 5 times The Simpsons kind of used Ben Hur,
Hmm.
like Burns coming out looking like, um, kind of like giving Christ the water, like
Mm.
what Ben Hur did,
Hmm.
which is funny. Camp Krusty, where they were forced to work at a sweatshop and they were doing the drums, like
Oh, that's
the
funny.
very, um, oh, New York City versus Homer, when Homer is another references. They did the same gag twice, but different shows. Instead of Bart and the soap ops, they did Homer facing like a carriage in Central Park, and he's like whipping the horses, and they're
Oh,
trying
that's
to like whipping
hilarious.
him.
Oh my God.
Um, oh, and obviously the mod referencing, but like
Ah,
Doug, like Doug, the same thing. The Derby chariot race, like when Doug realized Roger was cheating in the go-kart race,
yeah.
like because he had the little
The little things on the.
yeah. And of course, probably the most epic one that if anyone's a Star Wars fan is of course Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
But there's like
Yeah.
hundreds and
Oh yeah.
hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
Well,
references.
you
Like,
know what it reminded me of is watching. There's a this tells my age again too. The Carol Burnett show. Sammy Davis Jr. is a guest, and they do a scene in the boat with the the thing, and it's Tim Conway is and they bring in the new rower who is Sammy Davis Jr. as this big fop. Hello, excuse me, it's a little dirty here. It's just so funny. Excuse me, yeah, hi. It cracks me. All I could think throughout watching the whole boat scene
That's
was about that
hilarious.
scene. So there are a lot of takeoffs. You're right, James. There's tons of cultural references that have just
well,
sort of come
my
from this.
favorite. I don't know if anybody are NASCAR fans, but
Lord.
they did this in NASCAR Thunder 2003, where they used the chariot scene and but replaced the chariots with race cars and
Oh my
edited in
lord.
the asphalt track.
Oh, that's really
So
cool.
that's they did a commercial of
Like in
that.
the
Like if you
in the
want to see,
video game or commercial?
I believe the
That's cool either
sorry,
way.
um, yeah, at the it was a commercial for the video game or whatever.
Oh, that's cool.
um, and
And then
Um,
NASCAR just proves that we still have this thing in ourselves to watch people go around and around and around.
yeah,
Until
it
something
takes
happens.
it takes skill. Um,
They're not watching it for skill. They're watching it for someone to get hurt, which is
and
probably what it is.
well, yeah, but also like on a bigger scale, like Steven said earlier, MGM was struggling. So you can that could be you could stop it right there. We wouldn't have a ton of movies that we have if MGM would have. We don't know if MGM folded, what would have happened.
Yeah, I mean, this is really because of what was going on, and they only made this movie because Paramount had done so well with Ten Commandments. They thought, okay, well, that's going to work. Let's do it because this had been in pre-production over and over and over for at
Mm,
least 10 years, and no one wanted to sort of greenlight it. And because
interesting.
there were such problems, let's do this. Let's make some money, and it hit. Which is
Yeah,
probably why, again, I think it takes so damn long to watch it. But it's that was intentional, I'm sure, for MGM. We're going to make it epic. We're going to make an epic. We're going to have it be this thing. So it wasn't about louder, faster, funnier. It was about we're going to make an epic. Let's
well,
just sit here and watch this.
I feel like this was the year of Oscar nominated films
Oh
that
gosh.
had the epic movies because
Hmm.
there was only one movie that was under 2 hours. The rest were like
Yeah.
2.5 hour, 3 hour plus. Like Ben
Yeah.
Hur was the longest,
Hmm.
but not to get too ahead of ourselves, but like this was the year of the epic long movies.
I wonder if there was something that happened like with like film. You know what I mean? Like was it just cheaper or something? Yeah, like to make
Yeah.
it longer. Because I mean,
They all.
obviously, as time goes on, things get cheaper because you learn how to make it better and faster. So I just kind of
But
but
also,
I also wonder what makes an epic. Is it more than 3 hours? Because like to me, like a normal movie, a 2.5 hour movie, I don't consider that an epic. Like Casablanca's over 2 hours, isn't it? I don't consider it an epic.
I consider it to be an epic when you're. It's the story. We're a big production company,
Oh, we're
and
gonna
we're
show
going to
you.
make a movie. We're going to really strain ourselves. We're going to push ourselves and that's what this was. I mean, we've got this set that takes up 10 city blocks just of Jerusalem, and it really did 10 city blocks.
Mm-hmm.
We've got these costumes that are coming out from all over the world, and it says it just the advertisement of that while the film's being made and waiting for it to come out generates this buzz in people. That's what they wanted to put out there. Look what we're doing. We're going above and beyond for you. Look, I'm going to hear it now. The biggest motion picture ever made. That kind of stuff.
I mean,
So
I
I
feel
think
like
that's what
it's
there's something about it.
I feel like it's like, to quote the Supreme Court, I'll know it when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Like what
Yeah.
like
That's
what an
where
epic
It's a great,
is.
yeah. But it's also funny how this really shows how random this show is. We went from a $2 million budget last week to
1 million
165.
in 2022 dollars.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Like
saying.
even if they did not adjust for
So we
inflation,
went
this
from
movie had
Coda,
so much more
we went
money.
from Coda. I mean, it's just funny, but they both won, so they got what they wanted. So, but yeah, that kind of leads to the next one. This is gonna be fun because usually so far the years we've picked, we kind of have an idea who should have won. There's usually, okay, maybe one movie. But I wanted to read the 5 nominated movies
Yeah,
and
please
then
do.
read some of the ones that weren't nominated and get
Yeah.
y'all's opinions on who you think should have won. So the 5 that were nominated were obviously Ben Hur, Anatomy of a Murder, The Diary of Anne Frank,
Hmm.
The Nun's Story,
Hmm.
and then Room at the Top. And then there were a few that were not nominated, such as
Hmm.
Some Like It Hot,
Yes.
North by Northwest,
Yep.
Imitation of Life, and to a lesser degree, Sleeping Beauty.
And there's also Suddenly Last Summer. I mean, Suddenly Last Summer.
I don't
And
think people know
Katharine
what that is.
Hepburn.
People don't know what
Yeah,
that
they do.
is.
They have, homosexuals do. Calm down. But yeah, Suddenly Last. And
Well,
Katharine
there's
Hepburn. I think she was nominated for this. She was nominated for her performance in Suddenly Last Summer. Crazy Tennessee Williams played this movie with Elizabeth
oh,
Taylor.
never mind. Of course, this got to be Steven's very biased on Tennessee Williams. So anything with
I know
him, man,
because
he's
I'm
gonna
from
talk about
Tennessee and
it.
he's great and he's gay. But but imitation. You said imitation like Pillow Talk. I know it's not going to be nominated for a movie for an Oscar, but Pillow Talk. Lil Abner not going to be nominated, but still a great movie. Porgy and Bess. Why Porgy and Bess wasn't on this list, I have no idea.
All right, okay, Steven. This is
Just a lot of great
You're
movies.
getting a little out. No, I mean, I'm not saying it's not, but they shouldn't be nominated. I mean, there's a
Porgy and Bess should have been nominated.
You're getting a little far
I
out
could,
there.
I could
Porgy and
tell you a
Bess
movie that
should be.
should not have been nominated, but should not have been nominated in those
What?
lists. Room at the Top. I
Never seen it, so I can't
that
speak on it.
that movie was so boring.
Yeah.
I tried so hard to watch that movie.
Like this week
And I
or,
just-
or beforehand.
Well, I watched it previously and I didn't get through it, so I thought maybe I'll give it the good old college try this
Yeah,
week.
now that you're kind of
And now that I'm trying to look at it more critically or whatever, and oh my god, the Room at the Top should not have been nominated.
It's that It's a British film, right? Is it right?
Yeah, it's British, and like I get probably why British recovery from the 1950s, like still from World War II. So I get that, but like story was just so boring.
already. Well,
why is it? I would say this, Daniel. I mean, other than what should have been nominated in this, I would say, why? Why is it that I think a lot of people still love this movie? Some Like It Hot has had much more of a cultural. I think people still love that movie. And it still resonates with people. It just made a musical of it a few years ago on Broadway. People still love that story. But why wasn't it didn't even hit the blip of Best Picture that year? Why is that? I don't know.
Well, I think, Steven, I think partially, I think that's some of your, like, the sphere of people that you're around. Because,
Sphere of people.
well, because, like, none of your friends probably like Ben Hur, but most of the people in the world do like Ben Hur. So, like, I think it's just one of those things where you've not been exposed to that because, like, all of my friends love sports, for example, and you have no idea what goes on during sports. So I think it's just kind of what you're exposed to.
Maybe.
And so, like, I'm not, and
the
I'm
other
not.
side of that coin is if y'all were exposed to what we love, maybe you like it too.
But I would argue that the chariot scene is one of the most iconic scenes in the history of film.
And you're going to take that away from Marilyn Monroe walking away from you, looking at her rear end, and
yes,
on that train.
Absolutely, because that can be recreated today by somebody else. Like the fact that this was 1959 Chariot is amazing. Anyway, we're getting off topic. So, Stephen, clearly you didn't like this movie. What do you think should have won?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I would say that this one should have won. I didn't like it. I didn't care for it because I thought, my God, is this ever going to end? I mean, it was 2 hours, over 2 hours. It finally got to the intermission. I was like, dear sweet Jesus, I'm never going to get through it. But I would say it should have won because it was showing something to the American public. That's why I think it should have won. Not because I loved it, but because it said something about, here, you've got your television, your television. Look at what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
That's what this movie was saying. That's why I think it should have won. But there you
go. James, you want to go and I'll wrap it up?
Do you think it deserves the Oscar because of how epic the sets were?
Yeah.
I would not say it was probably the best written story. The dialogue probably wasn't the best. However, the rest of the movie, top notch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm torn because I'm a diehard Hitchcock fan. I'm a diehard Jimmy Stewart fan.
Yeah.
And North by Northwest obviously is a Hitchcock movie. And then Anatomy of a Murder, which I have not seen. I've been
No.
wanting to see, but I can't find it anywhere online. Most people say it's one of Jimmy Stewart's best, other than obviously like Rear Window and It's a Wonderful Life. And I know I would like it because I'm a big courtroom kind of person. And most
Yeah.
people, if you look at courtroom dramas, most people put that in the top five of all time usually.
Mm.
And I want to see it so bad, but based off of everything, it did deserve to win because it pushed the envelope forward. And for me, that's what I think makes a great Oscar movie is when it does something to you, whether it's gives you that shock and awe factor or it makes you like last week a feel good story, whatever. Like I just think the fact that it pushed movies forward and showed we can do this,
Mm.
because I don't have any basis on this, but the fact that this came out, this might have influenced someone like George Lucas to be like, okay, I can make Star Wars. I mean, like you just don't know the impact this had seeing this on the big screen. And I just think that the epicness,
Mm.
I just think it deserves it, honestly.
Well, if you're looking at Casablanca, that was one of 52 movies they made. That was
Right?
no one thought it was special. We're just churning this stuff out.
But the writing on
There's
that one
one
really
a
makes
week,
it.
one a week, and then you decide we're going to make this movie. That's something special.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah. I think they knew going in that this is going to be an epic, obviously, because they
Oh,
put the
heck,
money.
they
So
did.
it wasn't like, oh my gosh, we got to hit a.
Yeah.
I think it'd been more crazy if they didn't, if it wasn't a hit. I mean, but any final thoughts on this before we move on to the Wheel of Fate?
I would just say this. I saw a lot in the dialogue that shocked me. I mean, there was where's the thing? Masala says, if you're either for me or against me. And all I could hear was George W. Bush. That's all I could hear in my head. You're either with us, you're against us. There are a lot of
Cultural
dialogue in
reference.
this movie. What'd you say? I'm sorry?
Cultural reference.
Reference.
Yeah, I mean, really,
Like Bush
you know,
pulled it from there.
I mean, really, it was like, okay, I felt the same way when it was, okay, great. If I don't agree with you, then I'm an evil person. Oh, great. You know, and the gayest thing I've ever heard in my life is down Eros, up Mars. When they did that little salute, I was like, oh my Lord, this is a lot going on. But
I really appreciated their depiction of just Roman soldiers. Like,
yeah,
as someone who has like I said, has a history degree, I really appreciated that. And fun fact, my local church every year would put on a Bethlehem. I don't want to call it a play because it was an outdoor event. It was like it took up the entire it was huge. We had horses, everything. And I remember as a kid seeing the Roman soldiers and being terrified because I
wow.
thought that they were actually whipping people when they obviously weren't. But
Oh wow.
this kind of just brought like seeing that and then seeing these guys because I wanted to like Marsala. You know what I mean? Like or Marsala. Like at first you think like, okay, he's just
He's an
doing
okay guy.
his. He just yeah. And I hate to say this because this is going to open up a can of worms, but he was just doing his job at first. But
Mm.
he then, like you said, because I really thought the genuine like love they had at the very beginning, I was hoping that was going to last longer. But it literally was just one scene. Then it's like, okay, now we're enemies.
And to know that he is so evil because he knows they're innocent. He
I
knows up
know,
on
I
the loop.
know.
Okay, this is a problem. Okay.
And then
No.
when they find, then what? Another scene that really bothered me was when they were like, "When was the last time you saw?" Whenever they go to find if they're in the caverns or like in the basement,
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "When was the last time you seen them?" He's like, "Never. We just feed them through the slot. We don't check on them." And that's when he opens the door and sees they have leprosy. It's just like that's insane. Like, and he knew that, and like he was gonna let him rot, and he was gonna let Ben Hur rot on the boats as a
Yeah.
slave. He was
Yeah.
okay with it. And one thing I did want to reference before we move on, uh, someone had mentioned at one point on another reaction about talking about it was they didn't take Ben Hur's ring whenever they searched him
That's
because
exactly. I thought the exact same thing.
no, but here's why. It was a slave ring. Why would you want a slave ring?
Maybe.
A Roman soldier would not want a slave ring. That's I don't want that.
But
So it's
why do
just
they
like
keep it? Take it off and throw it away.
because they
Something.
don't because I think it's just too much energy. I don't think they were quite as evil as like the mustache man from the 40s who made you take everything off. You know what I mean? Like I I just think that
Yeah,
I think that's why they didn't do it, honestly, because
it
I mean,
shocked me though. They still has a slave ring. I was like, really?
but there was, but to be fair, like there's a huge discrepancy from the Roman citizens versus non-Roman citizens, so it wasn't even worth their time. They probably felt dirty having him even
True.
take it off. You know what I mean? So I think that's why.
Okay.
James, any final thoughts before we spin the wheel of fate?
In the middle of destiny.
If you want to have a good time with this movie, every time you see a reference in another TV show or movie or Broadway production or book, take a drink. We'll have
You'll be
the dialogue will be sounding great by then.
This is a great movie. I love this movie.
And Charleston Heston will be even more chiseled and better, and more tan.
That is Chuck Justin.
What a dreamboat,
right?
Stephen Boyd, what a dreamboat! Oh my lord!
All right, here we go.
Are you going to pull up the wheel?
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, I can now. Oh gosh, here we go.
Right.
Hold me. Hold me.
Let's build a little suspense here. James, what year, what era are you shooting for? Like 50s, 60s, 70s? What decade do you want?
I want 80s or 90s because we haven't done something close to those.
That'd be good.
And Steven, what genre would you like?
A musical would be nice. Let's do that.
Okay, so 80s, 90s musical. All right, let's spin the wheel. Here we go. What? It's probably going to be like Wings, which is a silent film.
Oh, that's going to be fun. All right, here we go. Oh God. Hold me. What is it?
It is. I can't. Cimarron.
I knew it. Oh no.
That's 1931. I don't know anything about it.
I know nothing about this movie, so that'd be good.
Let me.
Wow, all three of us know nothing.
Let me pull it up because I do want to at least like read the synopsis to it so we can see. It is a epic Western film.
Yeah, no.
So apparently it has to do with the Oklahoma land rush of 1889.
Oh, that'll be good. It's
only 40 years before that movie was made.
Right? Yeah. And let's see what the IMDb on it is. I've heard of this, but I've never seen it. And the only reason I've heard of it is because I've watched other people go through the list of movies.
Yeah.
It's not good on IMDb. It got a 5.8 out of 10.
Oh, pray for us, people.
So it says a newspaper editor settles in an Oklahoma boom town with his reluctant wife at the end of the 19th century.
Oh, goodness. And Jesus is in there too, right? Jesus is somewhere, right?
So, but anyway, that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Please, if you made it this far, do us a favor, give us a like, subscribe, and comment. We also have our TikTok down below. Please follow that as well. We post shorts on there. You'll see more of shorter videos and that type of thing. And then leave us a comment if you have any questions, comments. If you want, a suggestion, we'll take them. Like I said, we're trying to get through all these movies first, so that may that may not be that may not happen right now, but down the road it will be.
We'll do it sometime 24/72.
I was about to say, yeah. 100 years from now we'll get to it, but otherwise, thanks everyone for joining. And this is the Chicago Cinephiles signing out.
Bye.
Bye.